Amber Alert Podcast.
Welcome, Amber Alert Podcast, episode 98. I am your host, Amber Starkey. It is a great day to be alive. I don't know if I'm live on Instagram because it once again is saying that it's experiencing technical issues. So if that's the case, it is what it is. I will post later if I can. Doesn't really matter to me. I don't really check on that stuff. As long as it looks good here, then good. Anyway, so this is part one. We're going to do it in 3 parts again. Part 2 is interesting. That's our middle section. I always like to talk about either a conspiracy theory or a supernatural event of some kind. And there's a very interesting interview that I just listened to like yesterday of a woman who had an experience with the typical grays, the alien grays, right? And yet she's a Bible believing Christian, so she has the same POV that I have about the whole situation, and yet she experienced it firsthand. So it's literally 10 minutes, not long. So part 2 probably won't take that long, but there's some very interesting stuff going on as we inch closer and closer to the final disclosure about UFOs and UAPs and aliens. There has to be intelligent life out there. You're going to have different theories thrown around. So I want to get into it a little bit because it's finally hit the main stage, which is very interesting because I'm not a researcher. I'm not an author. I'm not one of the people who's at the forefront of covering this stuff. I just listen to all of those people, and I've been following it for over a decade now. So to me, it's very interesting to see it become mainstream because for the longest time, it was fringe and you were a psycho. You were a complete lunatic if you believed that UFOs were real. And now the president of the leader of the free world's talking about it. Level-headed normal people like Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, some of these other people, they're talking about it. So it's like we're beyond the basement dwelling conspiracy theorists and it's mainstream. So we're going to finally have some disclosure on it, but you can just be guaranteed it'll come with propaganda and lies. And we have to sort out what's true, right? So we'll get into that in part 2 a little bit. Part 1 obviously will be the news as it always is. And then part 3, when I get into the Bible, which is my favorite part, which is the best part, because it stood the test of time and it always will. And it is what will ground you to ensure that you're not deceived in these coming days, which are full of deception. It's hitting from all sides. It's only going to increase and get worse. So if you want to have a fighting chance at standing in truth and not being swayed by the many very convincing theories that'll be thrown around, the Bible has got to be your litmus test. You test things against the Bible. If they don't line up, you can throw it out. And if it does line up, you know what you're working with, so you can't lose. So we'll get into the Bible. I want to talk about free will and sin nature and the believer's authority because I was reading something that just made me stop. And I've read it a million times, but it made me stop. And I thought, man, there's really something to that. So then I did some study on it. So I'm excited to get into part 3. But for now, we're just going to do part 1, which is the news. Let's get to it. From Melissa the Hopeful. Call me crazy, but if someone gets physically assaulted by a demon shortly before becoming absolutely consumed with loathing for Israel, I'd say there's a connection. You're right, Melissa. She's obviously referencing Tucker Carlson. For those of you who are not familiar, Tucker was the one who said this was, I don't know when, like within the last 2 years, I would say, but don't quote me because I don't remember. But he said that he got attacked by a demon in his sleep, which I believe happened. I actually had a friend in college who had the same thing happen to her. And I saw with my own eyes scratches on her stomach. I saw the word run scratched right here into her arm. I saw a pentagram that was below her belly button. And I saw in her eyes something looking back at me that wasn't her. So it's real that people get attacked by demons oftentimes in their sleep and whatnot. But it is true that happened to Tucker. And then he made this pivot. He used to be loved by, virtually all of conservatives, and now he's strictly just in one wing of what some people call it the woke Reich, because it's influenced by hatred for Jewish people, hatred for Israel. And if you have criticisms for the Israeli government, I do too. That you can acknowledge, I say this all the time, you can acknowledge their deep state, you can acknowledge that there's corruption there while still maintaining support for the people, for the nation, if you are a Bible believing person. If you're not, then I guess think whatever you want. But it's people who read the Bible who are supposed to know better. Again, if you stay grounded in what the Bible says, you'll understand that Israel, God's never broken covenant with them. And when it comes down to it, the tribulation is the time of Jacob's trouble. He's dealing with the nation of Israel. That has yet to come. They are in a state of rebellion, as Bible prophecy tells us they should be at this point. But their time is coming when they'll look on the one they've pierced and they will repent. The remnant will all be saved. So if you're consumed with hatred for them, you're already under the influence of the Antichrist spirit that's coming, that's already here, but is only going to get worse. You're setting yourself up to pick the wrong side of the issue. And again, if you're a Bible believing person, you should know better. So Tucker, and it's not just that Tucker is like a godless person. I don't know where he's coming from, but he's clearly he's a simp for Islam now. Like those are all his talking points. And all the Islamic nations hate Israel's guts. So naturally, who's he going to talk against if he's trying to please whoever's paying him out from an Islamic nation? You're going to demonize Israel the same way all of them do. So it's not really hard to tell at this point. He's not like hiding it, I guess. Next. All right. So if the Jews in Israel aren't really Jews, why do you guys hate Israel? Because they're Jews. I feel like someone got high and asked this question, but it's a good point. People, you have people, the Jews are controlling everything. The Jews are the worst. And then when it comes to Israel, they're not even the Jews. They're not even real Jews. They're actually Palestinians. They're imposters. Okay, so which is it? Because you're claiming Israel is controlling everything, and you're saying the Jews are controlling everything, yet the people in Israel are not Jews. So which is it? You gotta pick a talking point here and stick to your guns, because you're talking out both sides of your mouth and these things are conflicting. So which is it? You either accept that they're Jews and then you can carry on with hating them and saying they're controlling everything, or you have to accept that they're not Jews, which means Jews are not controlling everything because you're saying Israel is. So which do you want to stand with? Which both positions are stupid, but at least pick one. Next. This is, okay, what happened? You can't argue with the spiritually blind. They can't see the truth, from 2 Corinthians 4. This is true especially of those who hate God's eschatological eschatological purpose for Israel. Yes. And all these people, I've never in my life seen such bad doctrine as I've seen in the last, I would say, like 6 months is when I really started to notice it. I never used to think about Israel ever. I understood the significance of them, obviously, because I read the Bible, but I never used to think about them. But that's all anybody talks about. Everyone's obsessed with it. It's a little nation the size of New Jersey. And yet it's the talk of so many people. And it's further evidence of the time in which we're living that I think, and I'll get into this in part 2 when we talk about UFOs and stuff, the veil is thinning between the spirit and the natural. You're starting to see more tangible supernatural occurrences, and they're becoming known. It's not as a full gospel Christian, people have always thought people like me are nuts, and people still do. People like me are nuts. You believe in certain demonstrations of power that are supernatural, and I don't believe that. So you've always expected that, but it's getting to the point where it's it's normal to know that this stuff is real. It's because it's more out in the open. You're seeing an uptick in demonic activity. You're also seeing the outpouring of God's Spirit. So you're seeing both angelic and demonic influencing things, and they're showing themselves here being manifested in the natural. So this push to demonize the existence of Israel and deny the biblical importance of Israel is further evidence that there is an antichrist coming who will take a position of power. He'll set himself up once he betrays Israel 3.5 years into this peace treaty. He'll sign with them, and he'll set himself up in the Holy of Holies. He'll turn on Israel, and then all nations will be gathered against Israel. So you're seeing just the way people are talking now, demonizing Israel and everything they do, which sometimes they have made some decisions I certainly wouldn't have made. So criticism is fine, but it's making them out to be the most evil thing on planet Earth. You're seeing the influence of that antichrist spirit already working its way through people, and it's unfortunately latching on to people who should know better, who are supposed to be reading the Bible, and they'll even quote the Bible. What about Revelation 3:9? You say you're Jews, but you're a synagogue of Satan. Oh, I guess that means the entire nation of Israel is that right there. I love that that Romans chapter 11 is in the Bible. If you want to completely erase the nation of Israel from that word I just struggled with, eschatological times, you have to remove Romans 11 from your Bible, because it is the clearest, and it's New Testament post-resurrection. Because a lot of people, they'll throw out the Old Testament pretty quick, or they'll spiritualize everything. But when it comes to Romans chapter 11, if you want to continue with that, you're going to have to remove that. You cannot get around it. The Apostle Paul makes it clear God did not turn his back on Israel. He's not done with them. The entire remnant will be saved. And there's also a warning to Christians, because people who aren't Christians, I don't expect you to understand this. So if you're just consuming propaganda and making your decisions based on that, whatever, that's expected. But people who are reading the Bible ought to know better, which is why Christians are most at fault for this. Is when Paul said, it's the roots that make the branches holy, not the other way around. So you, being the branches, the Gentiles who got grafted in, don't be arrogant toward the roots. The roots are the Jews. That can't be more clear, and yet everyone's just blowing through that warning and jumping headlong into being arrogant toward the Jews. And yes, if you're a born again believer, you have something the Jews don't have. The Jews who are unsaved, you have right relationship with God through the only way, which is a person, Jesus, and they need that, and they will get there. Those who are saved in the remnant will get there. They are not there yet. That does not mean God is not going to do exactly what he said in the scriptures he's going to do. So the bad doctrine is it's disappointing, and yet I guess expected. I have to get off of X. I have to stop reading comments. I have to get off Instagram and stop reading comments, because it's disheartening that so many people are blindly falling for this propaganda and the satanic lies, because that's what it is. Satan's the accuser. He's been accusing Israel since the beginning. It's the same spirit, and it's so frustrating to watch people just buy it hook, line, and sinker that I have to step away and be like, I can't read this stuff all day, because it'll make me I don't know. What it'll make me want to do? Just go to heaven and be like, you guys are on your own. You wanted it, take it. When you find out you've sided with the dragon, then you'll know. But I don't want to have that attitude. I want to keep my love for people. I want to understand the church is here on a mission, and that will last until Jesus comes for his bride. Until then, we're to occupy. Until then, we're to take the gospel into all the world. We're to pray for people and keep speaking the truth. And so I can't get overwhelmed by the negative things. Otherwise, I'll just want to go to heaven and be like, burn, you guys asked for it. You'll get exactly what you wanted. And that will happen. But I don't want to lose my compassion for people. So that's why I have to step away. All right, next. Gavin Newsom thinks black people can't read. I actually can believe he said this, because he's an idiot. It's unbelievable how he just thought he could get away with this and thought it was fine. Do you even hear what you're saying? This is crazy. This is this child prodigy Victor who's going to...
And I don't know how to...
Start at the beginning, please.
And,
okay.
And I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech.
That's insane. Gavin Newsom, speaking to an audience of predominantly black people in Atlanta, Georgia, says, I'm just like you. He's trying to relate to them. I'm just like you. I'm stupid, and I don't.
Hold on. I like him, but how is this small child married? Is he not like 17? He has a ring on his finger. You have a wife?
Know how to read. Gavin, that is like the most racist thing that I've seen anybody say, any public official. This guy wants to be president, make no mistake. He's out here telling people, I'm just like you, black people. I don't know how to read and I'm stupid. He's blaming it on the fact that Gavin has dyslexia, but what, did the whole audience also have dyslexia? No, you're just trying to relate to them because you think they don't know how to read.
Yeah, that's the thing. So Democrats, it blows my mind how they seemingly get away with this too. And it's not that there aren't black people who are upset about what he said. Obviously there are. But it's like, how do you say that under the guise of like being the party that's supposed to not be racist? You guys have said the most racist things I've heard politicians say. What Gavin Newsom said, first of all, why do you think black people can't read? They can read. Okay. I don't know why you would say that. And then, with Joe Biden, some of the stuff he said sounded pretty racist to me. And I'm not one of those people that thinks everything is racist, but it's like, yeah, I definitely wouldn't have said that. Coming from a white person, if I were a black person listening to that, I'd probably be like, I don't appreciate that. So the most racist language I've heard has come from Democrats while they pander to black people and act like, yeah, we're on your side. It's the Republicans. They're the racist party. Who started the KKK? Because it was the Democrats. So that probably ended his political career. You would think, I think he did drop a ton of, I don't know, as it should drop him. People should be like, I don't want to hear you talk ever again, and certainly would never vote for you ever again. What an insane thing to say. All right, next. Liberal mega donor Steven Spielberg reportedly fleeing California as Gavin Newsom's billionaire wealth tax looms. You hypocrite. I love your movies, Steven Spielberg, but listen, you don't get to vote for these liberal policies that create this problem and then run from it. How about you lie in your bed the way you made it? Zuck did the same thing. Oh, these taxes are killing me. So I'm going to, where do you go? Florida or something like that. And now you got another one. You guys are the ones who've pushed these liberal policies, and and then you're going to run from it because you don't want to pay. You're just okay with everybody else paying. Absolute hypocrites. People have done that in New York, and then they end up leaving because they can't even stand to live governed by the laws that they voted to pass. Next. The New York Times is retarded. So they literally came out with this that says pedophilia, a disorder, not a crime. No, it is a crime. It's not a disorder. It's a crime. It's disgusting. And there's no amount of sugarcoating that can change that. And why would you put this out as a major publication? That's disgusting. Okay. And it's funny too, how many people, I know there are very bad parents out there, but a lot of the people who are liberal and they're like, yeah, love is love, guys. If there was like a known pedophile and they wanted access to your child, you would say no. But in the same breath, you'll support statements like that. Yeah, pedophilia is not a disorder. It's just that's their sexual orientation. People can't help what they're attracted to. No, you need deliverance and castration in most cases. But no, you can't reframe that and make it sound okay. I knew this was coming though, because as soon as they legalized gay marriage, you opened up, things were black and white, right? Very distinct. Marriage is between a man and a woman. That's it. There's no gray area. It's just black and white. When they legalized gay marriage, they created this gray area, and then so everything became permissible. So then the pedophiles are like, well, gay people, love is love, right? So what about me? So, okay, so now you have to say pedophilia is okay. And then you have furries. So now it's basically bestiality. Pedophilia is disgusting, but at least it's within the correct species. It's human to human, even though it's messed up. Bestiality is like, you know what? I don't even like people. I'm into animals. And now you have to carve out space for them too, because love is love, right? It's not a disorder. It's just their sexual orientation. You see the can of worms that you've opened up there by doing that. Next. So, around 3.8 million UFO and alien-related files from the Black Vault disappeared hours after Donald Trump ordered full disclosure of such records. Interesting! So, I know disclosure's coming eventually, but I'm sure that it's going to be a managed agenda where they'll let out whatever they're okay with coming out, but it's going to be in the way that they decide, and it's going to be under or aligned with the narrative that they choose. So you can bet you're not just going to get full truth on anything. You'll get bits and pieces. It's what the mass media does now. Oh yeah, we'll cover a story. This thing actually happened, but here's what we're gonna report. We're gonna leave all of these facts out, these details. We're not gonna include them. We're gonna put piece this and this together to make it look like something happened that isn't actually how it happened. That's how you manipulate facts, and then you that's how you turn people into lunatics who listen to legacy media, because they're like, yeah, didn't that happen like that? It's like, no, that's not actually at all what happened. You have 10% of the facts. So you think you're getting the truth, but you're not. So I'm sure that's what they're going to do. Next. Donald Trump, as your president, I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. Such a currency would give our federal government absolute control over your money. This is why the deep state hates his guts and keeps trying to kill him, because America is the last domino to fall, to cave to the globalist agenda. As soon we're a middle finger with Trump in office. At least we're a middle finger to that whole system, which is ushering in the Antichrist, the World Economic Forum, the UN, all of them. And Donald Trump, even when he was at Davos, was that in January, I think, basically saying, I'm not playing along. We're not doing globalism here in America. Don't care what you think about it. So that's a big part of it right there. Because as soon as everything is digital, you can see it in China already. Everything is digital, and you don't eat. Your phone battery's dead and you can't charge it for whatever reason. You can't eat. You can't buy anything because your money's in your phone. You have a social credit score. Oh, you did something. You made a post we didn't like, or you burned too much carbon, or whatever. Whatever. We'll ration what we allow you to have. You can have this much internet time or access to this. You can have this much money. We'll allow you to buy this food, whatever. And so it's a means of control. And that absolutely will lead to, when the mark of the beast is rolled out officially, you can't buy or sell without it. Everything's got to be under the control of somebody. And it's not going to be under the control of people having their own data, having their own means of payment or anything. So Donald Trump, again, is love him or hate him. I personally love him. We're the last ones that are holding out. As soon as America caves to it, it's over. And I know people who aren't American, they hate to hear Americans say things like that, but it is true. We are arguably the most influential nation. And other people from other countries, I met people from New Zealand like 2 years ago, and the guy said to me, he said, when America sneezes, New Zealand catches a cold, meaning what happens in America is felt all the way over here. So until we cave, we can hold these things back. Next. Qatari Tucker is a low-life liar. So he edited, so he put out this interview or interrogation really with Mike Huckabee. And then he edited something that he uploaded. So apparently he said he's, making it look like it went down one way when it actually didn't. So let me see, because there should be 2 videos in here. I haven't listened yet.
So I asked Huckabee, were you aware that this email suggests that the current president of Israel, Isaac Herzog, went to Epstein's island.
Current president of Israel, current president, who I know you know, President Herzog,
Know him very well.
apparently was at Pedo Island. That's what it says in the disclosure.
And so I just want to say clearly, I'm sorry to imply that I knew something I didn't know. Of course, I don't know that Isaac Herzog was on the island.
Yes, in the Epstein files, and I don't know that I've heard the current president of Israel respond to it, but he is listed as a visitor to Pedo Island.
But I don't know that, and I didn't mean to suggest that I do know that.
But you're surprised to hear that the current president of Israel, whom you know, is listed as a visitor to Pedo Island.
So I asked Huckabee, were you aware that this email suggests that the current president of Israel, Isaac Herzog, went to Epstein's island?
Current president of Israel, current president, who I know you know, President Herzog,
Know him very well.
apparently was at Pedo Island. That's what it says in the disclosure.
And so I just want to say clearly, I'm sorry to imply that I knew something I didn't know. Of course, I don't know that Isaac Herzog was on the island.
Yes,
sorry.
in the Epstein
I
files.
didn't realize this was playing twice. So yeah, he said he had to walk back on that. Probably, I'm guessing someone maybe said, you don't get to say things like that without a lawsuit coming. So he kind of walked back on it. And like I said, he's, obsessed with Israel. He's a freaking shill for Islam now. Now that we're on the subject of Tucker, I want to play this real quick. This guy does impersonations. And so he did a video after the interview with Mike Huckabee that I thought was pretty funny. So if I can pull it up, I'm going to play it real quick. He does a very good Tucker impersonation. I've heard some other good ones, but his I think is the best. Okay.
Me.
You don't know who the Jewish people are?
I've seen episodes of Seinfeld. I've watched Seinfeld a lot, actually. I know that there were Jewish people involved in making that show, but how do we know they were Jewish?
It seems we're going down a rabbit hole.
Did Jerry Seinfeld take a DNA test? How do we know where he's from? I'm sorry, it's because I'm an American and we're not thriving.
Okay.
And so when you say Jewish, I don't really know what that means.
But I'm confused.
It
It just seems like you're playing a game, Tucker. Ooh. What is that about? Tucker, I think this is important to note that Israel and the IDF, they go to great lengths to protect civilian life, even more than the U.S. military does.
I have to stop you just because I'm an American and I'm getting so angry. Did you just say that Israel is better than my country?
It's just an observational fact.
I take offense to that. That's shameful.
I am not speaking out against our country. I'm stating an observational fact.
By the way, nothing against Israel.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
I remember when I came here, I visited here many times. I remember when I came here, the agriculture was beautiful. It was better than in my country.
Wait a minute. You just came at me because I compared Israel and the U.S., and you made it seem as if I said Israel was better than the U.S.,
Okay.
and you tried to condemn me for that. And now you just said that when you came to Israel, you liked the agriculture better than the U.S. So are you saying Israel is better than the U.S.? You don't even recognize your own incoherence.
I'm sorry. I have to hold you to this because I hate mass murder. I hate mass murder. I hate it. I really hate it. It's one of my least favorite things, actually. And so, are you for mass murder? Is that what you're saying?
Of course not.
A puppy died in Alabama last week. Are you for that?
No, I like puppies.
Right.
You had somebody on your program, Tony Aguilar, who claimed that he witnessed a Palestinian child who was killed by the IDF. And that was completely not true.
Okay.
Because that boy that he was referring to is very much alive.
I don't know if that's true, by the way. I don't know if that's true at all. How do we know he wasn't just doing a Weekend at Bernie's thing?
Excuse me?
Weekend at Bernie's?
Weekend at Bernie's?
I don't know if that's true.
What are you talking about?
I actually want to move on because we're not thriving.
And yet you're so hostile to Israel.
By the way, I don't support Hamas.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
I don't support a lot of political organizations. You're not answering my questions.
Are we having a conversation or are we playing a game? Seems like you're playing a game. Tucker, are you on crack?
Maybe. It could be fentanyl. We have a real fentanyl problem in my country.
Is that what you're on?
I took it before this interview.
What did that demon do to you?
I think that we're not thriving. And I want my country to do well. I want Israel to do well. I want Hamas to do, almost, that was a close call. I want Christians to do well.
I guess my issue, Tucker, is that you claim to care about Christians.
Right.
And yet you spend all your time and focus criticizing Israel, where Christians are protected, but you ignore all the persecution of Christians around the world, in the Arab world, in the Middle East, in Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Nigeria. So how could someone like you who claims to care about Christians ignore all that? And it's not that Israel has a special, unique right to exist. It's that all of its haters, detractors, and critics claim it has a special right not to exist.
It's true.
That's the fundamental issue.
Okay.
And I would say that if you have so many questions about Israel and about Christians in Israel, you should go out and see it. You're here.
No thanks. Ambassador, thank you for doing this.
Okay.
So obviously that's like satire, and yet it's very spot on. All right, next. So from Brendan Dilley, one of America's best patriots, he said there is a reason that the United States military recruitment numbers are through the roof under President Trump. It's a vibe. When you have competent leadership and combine it with an ambitious agenda, it creates a synergy that men and women want to be part of. I agree. You go ask any recruiter how they did under Biden and then have them compare it to how they're doing now. And I guarantee they're going to tell you recruiting is much easier now under Trump. My husband is a recruiter in the military, and I can tell you firsthand, or well, from his firsthand, that it's different. When Trump got in, things changed. So there is an element of pride that came back, and people enjoy. People actually had take some, pride. This is America. Yeah, I'm happy to serve it. Things are different. So that's good. Next. Laura Loomer, she said, it's very alarming to see how many people on the right have been completely radicalized by podcasters who are getting paid to carry out foreign influence operations. Since when did conservatives stand with Hamas? Since when did conservatives attack grieving widows with lies? Since when do conservatives simp for Islam? Since last year, I'd say. This is not what I signed up for. I'm very alarmed. I feel politically homeless. I wouldn't go that far. You still have a lot of conservatives who've not gone nuts. So she said, I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a communist. I'm not an Islamist. I'm not a Holocaust denier. I'm not for open borders. I'm America first. The GOP is starting to become just as radical as the left. There is a wing of it that is. I don't know what this means for America. Nothing good will come from this. It just means that there's an attempt from the inside to dismantle the conservatives. And so that's why you have a wing of radicals now who have turned on a bunch of things that they used to stand for. It's just, that's what's happening. Next. Question. Do you think aliens exist? Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said, we'll see. I get to do the review and find out. So now I got Hegseth on it. It's not just, Marco Rubio was in that disclosure video. You got Hegseth on it now. You have Anna Paulina Luna, who's been doing a great job trying to get to the bottom of it. You've got, we're gonna force answers out. I know Laura Trump said something about Trump already has the speech prepared, the statements that he's supposed to make concerning UFOs and alien life, and there's speculation that might take place in May. So we'll see what happens. Next, Justin Trudeau, biggest word I won't say ever. He said, you can't take our country and you can't take our game. And Benny Johnson said, we will take both. You can have Katy Perry. Obviously, I don't mean any, some Canadians are fine, but they've been freaking out ever since we took hockey from them. They're still whining because it's all they have. They have maple syrup and they have hockey. That is all Canada has. America has a million things that we enjoy that we've dominated at. So when we take the one thing they have, they freak out, which is understandable. If I were a Canadian, well, I wouldn't be a liberal if I were Canadian. So I can't say that I would be mad. I don't know what I would do, but they're just losing their minds still. Next. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who I love, coolest gay person ever. He reacts to the failed assassination attempt on Trump at Mar-a-Lago. 2 would-be assassins dead, 1 in jail for life. The venom coming from the other side. They are normalizing this violence. It's got to stop. So this, for some reason, did not seem to make massive news. There was like a 21-year-old who showed up at Mar-a-Lago with like a shotgun, I think, and something else, and they took him out, which obviously you got to do. Someone shows up in an unauthorized place with a weapon, you don't just wait and see how it plays out. You got to assume they're there to try to kill someone, probably President Trump. So they took him out. For some reason, it doesn't seem like that made very big news. I don't really know why. But that is like, the third, is that the third assassination attempt on Trump? At least. And just for his second term or leading up to his second term. Next. Rabbi Brian Samuel said the devil despises Israel because its very existence signals that his days are numbered before his final destruction in the lake of fire. That's true. He knows Israel is the prophetic timepiece that sets everything in motion. So when that happened on May 14th, 1948, God said, I will put them back in the land that I've given them. He knows what that triggers is there's a series of events that ultimately end with him burning in the lake of fire. And so this is not the first time he's attacked the Jewish people. There's a history of that throughout scripture. I like that guy, Rabbi Samuel. He is, I guess you'd call him a Messianic Jew, a Christian Jewish person, which is literally everybody that wrote the New Testament really was a Messianic Jew, a Jewish Christian. So that's what he is. Next. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen nukes Bernie Sanders. I'm not even going to read it because I have the video. I can't believe Bernie Sanders is still in politics. Where is it? Here we go. I love this. He goes in.
Me, I'm going to respond. I'm pointing out facts. You can say what you want. I'm just pointing out facts. Anyways, I ranted too long. Let's talk about some.
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask your opinion on that. And if I cared about your opinion, I would ask you, but I don't care about your opinion.
Well,
you're part of the system. You're part of the problem. You've been sitting here longer than I've even been alive. This is your problem. You should have fixed this a long time ago. No, I'm pointing out facts.
That is true. All these people who've been in politics forever and ever, and they're whining, about Trump and about other people with policies different from theirs. And it's like, if yours worked, we wouldn't be in the predicament that we're in. You've been here for 50 years and clearly you don't know anything. So I don't want to hear it from you. Next. From Colin Roog, knew the Egyptian pyramids were built by an advanced civilization thousands of years earlier than previously thought, according to a new report. This is interesting. This is something to keep an eye on, and I'll tell you why, but let me just keep reading. The claims are similar to those discussed by author Tim Alberino on Michael Knowles' show last year. Tim Alberino is an Ohio native. Let's go. Researcher from the Autonomous University of Barcelona, Antonio Ambrosio, believes the pyramids are up to 12,000 years old. I don't know about that. For me, the jury is still out on how old the earth is. I genuinely don't know. I don't think it's millions of years old, but is it 6,000 years old? I don't know. Ambrosio also noted that the Great Sphinx of Giza shows signs of water erosion from heavy rain, which hasn't happened in the area since 5,000 to 3,000 BC. The point suggests that the site was already ancient at the dawn of Egyptian civilization in 3100 BC. Now hold tight because there's more to this that I need to read before I say what I want to say. So the pyramids of Giza were not built by the pharaohs of the 4th dynasty, but rather appropriated by them, Ambrosio said in his paper. Subsequent pyramids and earlier ones, according to the conventional timeline, would represent imperfect attempts to imitate pre-existing structures. Ambrosio also noticed that there are other megastructures similar to the Great Pyramids across the globe, which might suggest that the same civilization was sharing these building techniques with other cultures. That's massive. He said similar megastructures across the globe would suggest the same civilization. How does that happen? They didn't have planes. They didn't have bullet trains. How would you have the same megastructures built by apparently the same civilization all over the globe thousands of years ago? So part of this is probably stemming from, if you remember, I think it was last year, close to a year ago now, maybe, that they did they had satellites and they did cheap GPR scans, and they saw that there are like cylinders, these structures underneath the pyramids. So they're like, these things are more complex than we realized. And it looks like there's some kind of, there might be a power source of some kind or something So I don't think they even know quite how far down it goes, how deep it is. There've been different estimates, but it's 2 different satellites, 2 different companies, and they've confirmed the same thing, that there are cylinders or structures of some kind that are under the pyramids, which then just further begs the question, how were these built? You know, if we're all supposed to believe the Egyptologists that, oh, this was just, they somehow managed back in the day. No, impossible. They've got the pyramids are aligned with other mega structures on other. There was like a grid at one time that is so far advanced. The mathematics involved, to say nothing of the manpower and the ability, it's impossible. So I guarantee that the question of who built the pyramids, how, why, or even when, we're going to start to see history questioned. And I'll get into this more in part 2, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. You'll start to see history questioned and likely rewritten in multiple ways to usher in this new narrative that's going to make the Bible not be authentic, seemingly not be trustworthy. So it's not just going to be the pyramids. There's going to be more, probably more artifacts, maybe manuscripts, other structures. But the point is, if you're noticing, and also notice how this comes out, right around the time that we're starting to get UFO, some disclosure, people are talking about it. I guarantee the narrative will be an alien race that'll take credit for the pyramids, for Stonehenge, for the Nazca lines, for the structures at Silistani. Peru has multiple things, even here in the Americas, some of the mounds, all these things, with lunar alignment and things that you need spherical geometry knowledge to be able to do them, things you need to have an aerial view to see what you're doing, things that the explanations have not worked. They don't work. They could not have been built by the people at the time. So you watch an alien race, they'll take the credit for these things. So then again, there's evidence to support it. Seems very convincing, doesn't it? All leading up to the Great Deception. So I bet the pyramids will be probably one of the first things. It's obviously already in question now and has been since even last year with those new findings. And I'm sure there will be more beyond the pyramids. They'll rewrite history. They're already trying that with the Holocaust. The Holocaust didn't actually happen because history books are written by the victors, and the victors were the Jews. So they wrote whatever they wanted and they made themselves the victims so that they could rule the world while looking like victims. Like, yeah, okay. You've never met someone who had like a parent or a grandparent who survived the camps. There's a guy I was listening to the other day. His dad barely escaped being sent to a camp, and he had family who ended up in them. The tattoos are real, guys. It happened. All right, next. Breaking. Democrat Senator John Fetterman says he wore a suit to President Trump's address instead of a hoodie out of respect. I like John Fetterman better than like a lot of the Republicans. I would be happy to have him, but I want him to stay a Democrat because he's the only one who's like sane on that side. And so that can be helpful. How he was like, I couldn't believe that Pennsylvania elected like a literal ogre, and he saw everything he said was like ridiculous. I was like, this is so stupid. I don't believe this. And then after he had that car wreck, he started to be cool. He started making sense. He started taking the right position on a bunch of stuff. So it's like, if you've ever heard this, obviously I don't think it's true, but people say if you like had a head injury and it made you lose your mind, you need to get hit again in the same manner and it'll make your mind come back. It's almost like that's what happened to him. When he had that car wreck and he had like some damage to his head, he started making sense. So I don't know what happened with that, but God bless you, John Fetterman, showing more respect to President Trump than all the rhinos did. Next. New report claims UK officers drove police cars to help traffic vulnerable British girls to Pakistani rape gangs. Dude, if you do not know what happened in the UK with the Pakistani rape gangs, I would encourage you to not research it because it is so heinous. It is disgusting. And clearly they had the cooperation of police officers. It is disgusting and horrendous what they did. And I don't even know if it's like over. They've got big problems in the UK. It's awful. I don't know what it is about guys from Pakistan, but they're like, I'm pretty sure they're like leading the world in rape cases. I don't know what their deal is, but it's awful what happened over there with those things, those rape gangs. Well, and like, in fact, I know some of the stuff that happened. I can think of details on several different cases, and it's so disgusting and infuriating that I don't want to say it. Next. Hillary. So she got questioned about Jeffrey Epstein. She says she never met him. I wondered what her game plan was going to be. I didn't know if she was just going to lie through her teeth or fake her, like, I don't know, like a coma, or I don't know, something. I was like, what's she going to do? So apparently she just decided to lie through her teeth. So emails with Jeffrey Epstein say that that's not true. She definitely met him. Hillary Clinton is much prettier in person. Whoever wrote that can't be serious. Meetings with Hillary are not easily discreet. When I know you are close with Hillary, but if she gets the nomination and you vote for her, I'll effing kill you. I would like to invite you to attend a very intimate fundraising event with Hillary Clinton. So clearly, she met him. I saw the Babylon Bee said, which obviously is satire, but it said, Hillary Clinton insists she never met Jeffrey Epstein until the day she killed him. But she deferred. I think I'm going to read it. She deferred a ton of questions to Bill, who's supposed to be, I think he got questioned today. Also think he lied through his teeth. I bet Bill Clinton secretly likes Trump, because I would bet you anything he hates Hillary's guts. Can you imagine living with her? I guarantee you, when Trump was like roasting her leading up to the 2016 election, I bet Bill was like, let's go. Like, wouldn't show it to her, but he's probably like, someone put her in her place. I've been under her thumb my whole life. I hate her. I bet he probably secretly voted for Trump. Anyway, she threw him under the bus. She's like, you're going to have to ask my husband. So I don't know what kind of questions he was thrown today, but she clearly didn't care. Next. Breaking: heavy short form video use has been linked to reduced frontal brain activity and poorer focus, according to a recent study. You know, I feel validated, because I hate watching reels and shorts on Instagram. I don't get on TikTok because I'm not 14, but on Instagram, people send me reels, and I'm telling you, I'd usually 9 times out of 10 don't watch them. I hate watching short videos. I listen to videos all the time, hours on end, but I do stuff I work out while I'm listening to videos. I clean the house while I'm listening to videos. I listen to videos, but I do not sit and scroll and watch short ones. I hate doing that. And I know it's common. Most people like reels and they like shorts. I just am different. I hate them. If you send me one, I'm probably not watching it, and it's not personal. It's just that I hate watching them. Next. A German family who hosted a Muslim in their home faced a scary moment when, after his stay was meant to end, he reportedly refused to leave. Video shows that he then threatened the family with a knife, telling them, "This is my house now. You need to leave." Bro, I would kill somebody who tried to tell me my house was theirs after I let them in. Bro, you will die. This is my house. Let's watch the video. Germany's got man. They should have never let this happen with the unchecked immigration. Why can't I start it?
Pass okay, ist alles okay, okay. Was hast du gesagt? Okay, alles okay. Was hast du gesagt? Alles okay, alles okay. Birgit, ruft die Polizei. Was ist denn?
So that looked like to me, it says they're a German family, but that looked like to me that they were also of Arab descent. So I'm guessing they allowed German citizens who are Arabs, who've been living there who knows how long, let a fellow Arab in to their home, and he turned even on them. It's not like white German people he turned on people who look like him and then tried to take their house. Thank God I don't live in the UK or Germany. Or Canada for that matter. They've got, you guys, you're gonna lose your countries if you don't get that under control. There's nothing wrong with legal immigration. I actually think it's it's immigration that made America as awesome as it is, because it's a melting pot. You've got so many different cultures represented here. But notice you can't immigrate someplace and then refuse to assimilate. You can't go in and force it to be like the place that you came from. If you want to come here and you can share your culture, I love that. I love Greek restaurants. I like Chinese food. I like Mexican food. I'm glad people have come here from other countries and brought their culture with them. To Jamaican food is fire if you never had it, like all kind of places. So that's fine, but you can't, when you are a devout Muslim, their religion is conquer. It's like, it's convert people or kill them. That's what their religion is. So if as a Muslim you want to come here, you got to abandon that and understand that you're not taking the place over. You can live here peacefully. You can even go to a mosque and do your thing. You've got freedom of religion, but you can't take over. And that's what they're doing. So it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work. If you'll come here and respect how things are. I've known Iranian people, and they didn't do that, which they're technically Muslims, but they're not like practicing. They came here peacefully. They work jobs. They don't hurt anybody. They are fine. You can do that. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like, how you talk. If you come here, you respect the Constitution, you live according to it, God bless you. Have a great time here. But that's not at all what's going on in the UK. And now look at the problems they got. Next. This may be the greatest ad of all time. This is from the State of the Union address from, when was that, Tuesday? This is very short, but this sums up, I don't know why anyone votes for Democrats anymore.
Then stand up and show.
Sorry, I'm going to start it over.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. These people are crazy.
Yep. You know, Trump, I bet Trump, like, because he is intelligent. He knows what he's doing. That was like a trap. And it should be so easy. You should, regardless of your political affiliation, you should want Americans to be put ahead of anybody else. Should not be controversial in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And yet they would not stand. And so, not that Trump is running for a third term or anything, but that is a video that voters should see. Well, going into the midterms or anything. Why would you want to elect these people? If you're an American citizen, why would you want to elect these people? They clearly don't care about you. They don't care about you. Their policies show that they don't care about you. You're going to get screwed over in every way if they get their policies in the way that they want. So it's like he showed everybody how bad they are, and they fell into his trap by just being the way they are. I'm for illegal aliens. I don't care about Americans. All right. Well, at least it's not like hearsay. It's not accusations they're making in right-wing media. It's like, you guys have shown us yourselves. You don't need anyone to even comment. Just, this is what they did. Next. Mother in California had 8 cop cars show up to her home along with CPS, who took her child away because she refused to affirm her daughter's trans identity. That is insane. That should be, I don't know if you can win a lawsuit in California for something like that, but that should be a lawsuit. I would bet you guys money that CPS was part of the reason Jeffrey Epstein had access to so many kids. I allegedly, I should say, but I would be shocked if they were not involved in that. 400 some thousand kids going missing every year. And you want to tell me CPS didn't have anything to do with it? I don't believe it. Next. Breaking. Borge? Is your name Borge? Borge Brende? I have no idea how to say his first or his last name. but he's president of he's president and CEO of the World Economic Forum. He's resigned following an investigation into his relationship with Epstein. Imagine that somebody involved in the World Economic Forum would be doing things alongside Jeffrey Epstein. How shocking. It's almost like they're comprised of some of the most evil people that have ever walked planet Earth. Next. Matthew Mayer. I don't know if I said that right. I understand why people struggle with the modern state of Israel. Some say it's not the Israel of the Bible. Others say it's just a secular political state. And yes, like any nation, it can be critiqued. I'm all for that. I agree. But here's what should make us pause. The globe obsesses over Israel, one tiny nation smaller than New Jersey, surrounded by hostility, constantly in global headlines. Zechariah 12 says Jerusalem will be a heavy stone for all peoples. That's not normal geopolitics. That's prophetic gravity. The real question is this: did God promise a physical regathering of the descendants of Abraham back to their land after worldwide dispersion? Before I even read the rest of this, I can tell you that he did, and it's prophesied about in multiple places throughout the Bible. If the answer is yes, then what happened in 1948 demands serious biblical reflection. Yeah, it's what happened in 1948 is exactly what the Bible said was going to happen. They were going to be dispersed throughout the world, and then they would be regathered to the land he gave them. And even in Isaiah, it says, can a nation be born in a day? And that's exactly what happened. Is they were born in a day. They were regathered. May 14th, 1948, it happened in a day. The Bible doesn't miss. So God called the land promise to Abraham an everlasting covenant in Genesis 17. If everlasting doesn't mean everlasting, covenant language everywhere else, everywhere becomes unstable. Yeah, if you don't think God is going to keep his promise to the Jews, then you can't trust him to keep his promise to you. And now your whole faith is in question. And what other nation was scattered for nearly 2,000 years, preserved ethnically, revived its ancient language, and returned to its ancestral land? There is no parallel. To be clear, if the modern state of Israel is not Israel, then who is? And when exactly will Israel be back in the land? Mind you, modern Israel is apostate. That's not a compliment. That's the point. The coming time of Jacob's trouble is judgment before redemption. Judgment refines, wrath precedes remnant. Jesus said, "You will not see me again until you say, 'Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.'" Yeah. If you're going to refuse that Israel is the Israel of the Bible, you have a ton of coincidences to try to reconcile. So, okay, let's say they're not. So it just so happens that Jewish people were scattered and then they get regathered back to out of everywhere on the globe, they end up in the exact same spot where biblical Israel was. Coincidence number one. Or two, technically, if you count the dispersion. Also, the regathering of them checks off Bible prophecy. Coincidence number three. They're born in a day. Coincidence number four. The name Israel with a city, Jerusalem, number five. I mean, you have to try hard to ignore things that just flow easily if you just examine what happened, understand Bible prophecy, which I think that's the problem, is people don't know Bible prophecy concerning Israel. I think they just don't know what's in there. They don't know about Romans 11. They don't know about Amos 9, Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah. They must not, because that's the thing. If this Israel that is there now is not the Israel that the Bible prophesies about, then God's going to have to make another one. Do you believe? Is that easier to believe, that God's going to somehow remove this one, I guess flatten it like Gaza or whatever, and put a new one there in that exact land, and that's the one where these promises will apply? That's insane if you think that. It's easier to just accept, yes, they were regathered the way God said he would regather them. They're still apostate now, as the Bible said they would be. They will eventually look on the one they've pierced. They'll mourn as if for an only child. And here's the thing. If you have a problem with Israel being significant now, or whatever your issues are with them, you wait until there's a new person ruling from Jerusalem. His name is going to be Jesus. So if you don't like it now, you're going to hate it then, which should tell you you've chosen a position that is opposed to God. And so you might want to rethink your position. You're also, look who you're in the company with. Every blue-haired leftist, chants free Palestine. They hate Israel. They don't even know why. So you're in bed with those people. You're in bed with Hitler, who was the guy from Russia, Stalin, Saddam Hussein, Haman from the Bible. I mean, all the most evil people who've ever lived and the most crazy people alive today all have one thing in common, that they hate Jews. They hate Israel. And you're like, I think these people are onto something. I think Israel's the problem. They're evil. All right. That's the position you want to take. God help you. Again, if you read the Bible, you ought to know better. That's all. You just ought to know better. Next. Oh man, there was more that I didn't read. Revelation 1:7 echoes Jeremiah 12:10. They will look on him whom they pierced. I already said that. Modern Israel is not spiritually restored yet, but biblically, the physical regathering was always supposed to come before the spiritual awakening. The Israel that exists today will be the Israel God judges, and yes, a remnant of Israel will be redeemed. Yes. Also, mind you that when you stand before God and you give an account of yourself, you're going to be standing before a Jewish Messiah and a Jewish God. God is the God of Zion. The God of the Bible is the God of Zion, the God of Israel. Jesus, born of the line of David, a Jew through and through. That's who you're going to stand and give an account of yourself to. So you can either have, you can get your judgment, or you can stand in front of a Savior whose blood makes you clean. So you're not accounting for your sin. But there's no getting around that. I don't know what happened to everybody, but I don't want to lose my love for people. So I got to take things in doses. Next. From Colin Roog. New 1,400 New Yorkers have signed up for the city's emergency snow shoveling program, which requires residents show 2 forms of ID to qualify. You got to be kidding me. Now it's okay to ask for ID to shovel snow. So it's racist, and it's the worst thing ever to require ID to vote in federal elections, but it's okay to ask for it, require it, 2 forms to shovel snow. All right. So the update comes as Democrats refuse to support the SAVE Act, which would require people to show ID to vote. During his SO2 address, President Trump commented on the snow shoveling program. Even the new communist mayor of New York City just said they want people to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a social security card, Trump said. Yet they don't want the identification for the greatest privilege of all, voting in America. Yeah, I don't know how, if you've been clinging to the Democrats and to liberal leftist policies, how do you not see through that? If you're buying everyone who's peddled this, it's racist to ask for voter ID. Okay, you guys elected a communist in New York, which is one of the most liberal states in the US, and he's requiring 2 forms of ID to shovel snow. So is that racist too? Or it's only racist when you need to prove that you're a legal citizen and you're registered to vote and you're in the correct place in an election? Somehow that's racist, but you're making people prove, why do people need to prove who they are to shovel snow? I wouldn't care who you are. You could have murdered 3 people. If you come shovel snow and help, then good. Like that I don't even care about that. But the fact that we're not allowed, the only reason people are opposed to the voter ID, like Trump said, is because they want to cheat. And that's true. That's the only reason you're trying to demonize it, call it racist, whatever, is because you know that you need the illegal immigrants to help you try to win. And you also need to be able to get away with other forms of fraud, like dead people voting and like ballot harvesting and people voting 13 times and whatnot. So you want as little checks and balances as you can for the whole process. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to successfully cheat, which really did kind of get exposed in the 2024 election, because it's not that there weren't attempts to cheat. There were. It just was after 2020, people were on high alert. They're like, all right, we know what happened in 2020. No one's been held accountable for it, but at least we're going to make sure it doesn't happen in 2024. Next. Breaking. Assistant AG Harmeet Dillon implies possible denaturalization of Rep. Ilhan Omar. That would be hilarious. You can kick her out. She can go kicking and screaming. I think Harmeet Dillon should be the AG. She would be everything that Pam Bondi is not. Harmeet Dillon is awesome. She's like for justice. She's like for doing the right thing. I love her. But I hope we see Omar get kicked out because she sucks. Trump admin has gotten mortgage rates to their lowest in nearly 4 years, below 6% per Fox News. Should be good news to everybody who's looking to buy a house sometime in the near future, because we got this house at one of the worst times ever. So anytime mortgage rates fall, good news. Next. Rep. James Comer says Hillary Clinton repeatedly threw her husband Bill Clinton under the bus at the Epstein testimony, saying, "Ask my husband." Yeah, I wonder how he did with that today, because I was busy. I didn't really get a chance to find out. I think he said, like, you guys shouldn't have badgered her. He probably has to say things like that publicly, or he'll get like beat up at home. She'll have a knife to his throat if he doesn't like defend her. Next. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee urges embassy staff to leave today. All right. So you have China telling their people who are in Iran to get out. And then you've got our people in Israel being told, get out of there. So it looks like something's about to go down between, obviously, Israel will be involved, and us and Iran, which... do I want to see, conflicts that involve weapons? No, it would be great if it doesn't come to that. But the point is that death cult that's been running Iran needs to go. It needs to go. And it's not on behalf. People are acting like Israel's making us get involved. Do you not know about Iran chanting death to America? If they have nukes, they're not just a threat to Israel, they're a threat to America. And that regime is a bloodthirsty death cult, and they need to go. Not only for the preservation and safety of America, but I mean, Israel is our ally, so them too. But also, just, do you care about people living in Iran who just want to be free? Iran used to be free. You can look at pictures from like the 60s, the 70s. It was normal. They could go to the beach. They didn't have to, things changed when that regime came in. And so if you care about the people of Iran, you want that regime to go as well. So yeah, if it's got to happen by force, apply the force. And whatever you do, don't let those psychos get nukes, because they'll use them. That's the difference. Is you have countries with nukes who maybe they're a little untrustworthy, but they've not used them. Iran will use them. Even other Islamic nations in the Middle East are like, Iran's nuts. Don't let them have nukes. They're crazy. We might be like kind of jihadists, but we're not like them. So they can't have nukes. So I'm pro us neutralizing that situation however we have to. Again, it's a shame it's got to come to that, but if that's what it takes to get those people out of power and free that nation and keep everybody else safe, then do what you got to do. I think we should drone strike the cartels in Mexico too, like we did with the narco terrorists. Drone strike the cartels in Mexico, because people in Mexico should be free as well. Cartels are running everything. So if they're not going to stop, you kind of just at some point have to kill those people. It just is what it is. And they're not going to stop until they die. So next. Comer. House Oversight Committee members say Hillary repeatedly deferred to her husband, screamed, and was unhinged during Epstein deposition. I sort of just read that. You evil witch, Hillary. Can't wait for justice to be served on you. She's actually the number one person I want to see get what she deserves. More than Bill Gates, more than George Soros, more than Barack Obama. Hillary Clinton is the worst. Next. Brendan Dilley, he said, I've been fairly agnostic about Israel, but I can't help but notice that every single person I effing hate is pushing anti-Israel content and messaging. BTW. This post is bait for unhinged anti-Semites who follow me to bite on and get blocked. I love you, Brendan Dilley. He's right, though. Pretty much everybody who sucks hates Israel. Next. In the wake of the 1933 ascent of Adolf Hitler to the chancellorship, the German Christian factions moved swiftly to consolidate ecclesial life beneath a national Reich church aligned with the ambitions of the Nazi Party. I feel like an intellectual wrote this, and I'm struggling to read it because it's above my IQ. This project required a theological severing of Christianity from its Jewish roots in both doctrine and tradition. To legitimize this rupture, the German Christians drew upon positive Christianity, reshaping it into a doctrinal scaffold capable of sanctifying the ideological aims of the regime. What was called positive Christianity in Nazi Germany was not Christianity purified, but Christianity distorted. It was an attempt, advanced and endorsed by the Nazi Party, to harness elements of the Christian faith and subordinate them to a virulent, I don't know, nationalism and racial ideology. So there's a second part to that. So basically, in order to get Christians to go along with Nazism, they had to remove the Jewish roots from Christianity, which is the exact same thing you're seeing happen today, because that's what replacement theology does. Is we need, Israel doesn't matter anymore because the church is here now, which isn't true. The Israel never lost there's an everlasting covenant. We got added to, we did not get added instead of. There's a big difference between instead of and in addition to. So the church inherited the blessings and promises of Abraham. That's true. That's in Galatians 3, but that does not mean the Jews got kicked out. And that's what replacement theology teaches, is there's no Israel anymore because the church is here. It is not true. Both exist at the same time. The church, in my opinion, you could disagree, and that's fine. I believe the church is raptured. And then it's the time of Jacob's trouble. It's about Israel at that point, not the church. So they are two distinct things. It's not really hard to understand. But there's a spirit. There's a spirit that wants Christians to see it that way. That way you can demonize Israel and the Jewish people, which again, Antichrist is going to set up against them. All nations will be gathered against them. This is an Antichrist satanic spirit that's been around since the beginning. That is just, you're seeing it ramp up as we get closer and closer to that event actually happening. Next. Continue. The movement sought to excise what it claimed was Jewish influence from the scriptures. You understand, the Bible is a Jewish book. The entire Old Testament is Jewish, and honestly, so is the New Testament. It's written by Jewish Christians. Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, who is also the Savior of the whole world. To try to take the Jewish roots out of Christianity is to make Christianity not even exist. It doesn't. Christianity came from the Jewish roots. You can't remove the roots and have something there anymore. You just can't. So they recasted the faith into an Aryan state-serving religion, and even reimagining Jesus in radicalized militant terms. This horrific project was not a reform of Christianity, but a theological corruption, an example of what happens when divine revelation is bent to serve the spirit of the age rather than the lordship of Christ. In our own day, we must be vigilant, for when certain radicalized forms of integralism and neo-integralism, whether arising from Protestant or Roman Catholic contexts under the banner of what calls itself Christian nationalism, begin to conflate the kingdom of God with the machinery of the state, we are treading on perilous ground. I think there's one more. Let me see. Maybe not. This may be something different. No, this is it. Sacralism, as whoever that is, has pointed out for several years, does not result in the preservation of Christian faith and nearly always displays some form of religiously dispensed tyranny. So yes, we've seen this before. In Nazi Germany, the distortion known as positive Christianity represented a graceless, nationalized corruption of the faith and effort to subordinate the gospel to ethnic identity and political power. Whenever the church weds herself to coercive nationalism and redefines the faith in service of temporal authority, she does not strengthen her witness or the gospel. She becomes a woman who rides the state beast. Yeah. And you know what's funny is, you know what that came on the heels of? The rise of Nazism, I don't know if that's how you say it, in Germany came on the heels of the church in Germany saying no to the Holy Spirit. Azusa Street happened in 1906 here in the US, and then that fire of God, that outpouring of the Spirit spread to Europe and it got into Germany, and then religious leaders, Christians, got together, looked at what was going on, and they said, no, we don't think this is scriptural. We don't think this is of God. We are not going to embrace this. We reject it. So notice there was a vacuum there. As nature abhors a vacuum, there's a vacuum in the spirit. And if you don't get filled with the right spirit, the Spirit of God, something will move to fill its place. And so they rejected the Holy Spirit. And what do you know? Here comes the Nazis that filled the space. And then that affected Christianity to try to remove the Jewish roots. And then you get into an attack on everything that is true. So they did that to themselves. It's unfortunate, but it's exactly the same spirit you're seeing at work now. And I'm getting irritated. I don't know what this is about, but it seems like all the people who are Jew haters, they keep saying Christ is king. And that's bothering me. And the thing is, Jesus Christ is king, King of kings and Lord of lords. That's true, but they won't say the name of Jesus. They keep just saying Christ. So I don't know what that's about, but it's only coming from the people who are pushing like demonic theology that isn't true. So as soon as I see that, I'm like, okay, now I know to mark that person and not listen to them. The spirit is off, if you know what I'm saying. All right, we're almost done with the news, and we'll get into part 2 in a little bit. Next. ESD Pediatric Group in Cincinnati, Ohio revokes parents access to their kids' medical files when kids turn 12. Is that legal? That can't be legal. Kids can then make medical decisions and choose who to give access to. Parents only have access to billing. That is insane. At 12? So 12-year-old kids can make their own medical decisions, and you can keep the parent from access to their files. But you know what's funny? They can access the billing because you're going to make sure you get paid, aren't you? You absolute demons. That is crazy. That's got to be a lawsuit. Like that has to be. That can't be legal. Someone better, I don't know, somebody involved there. Last piece of news. Watch Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson repeatedly dodge a question from a reporter asking if non-citizens have been removed from the state's voter roll. All right, I'm not going to play the video. Just look at her eyes. You can always tell there's a psychopath by their eyes, and just look at her. And she's just crazy. Eyes are the windows to the soul. You can always tell through the eyes. All right, that's it for the news. I'll pop these up real quick, and then we'll get into part 2 very shortly. But it will be its own live stream. As I've been saying, I've been ending doing them in parts. So part 1 is just like the news and stuff. Part 2, I'll start at 6:18. I'll come back at 6:30. We're going to start a new live video. Should be X. Hopefully that's working. I don't know. X, Instagram, and Rumble again at 6:30. We'll do part 2. These are the ways to find me, contact me. If you listen on Substack, I know is not live. I will post a Substack, Rumble. If you listen on there, please follow, or in some of the cases you may have to subscribe. Please do that instead of just listening. And then here, if you want to support Amber Alert Podcast, those are the ways that you can. What was I saying about part 2? Oh, so part 2, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to get into a woman's, her encounter, her testimony. And this happened very recently, I think maybe in the last 3 months, or maybe even sooner than that, she had an encounter with what we call the Greys, or the alien Greys. And yet she has a biblical worldview. And so she knows what she's dealing with. They're not aliens. But it's literally like a 10-minute video, so it won't take long to watch the video. And then we'll just talk about some things, because this is a growing, it's getting more and more attention, this topic, which is exciting, because again, been following this stuff for years when it was nuts to follow it. And now it's like everybody knows. So we'll get into that in part 2. I'll be back at 6:30. It'll be a new live video. I will see you then. God bless you and goodbye.